that's the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. And the purpose of the meeting, the main purpose, is to get a briefing from the Office of the Auditor General on the municipal audit outcomes for the 18-19 financial year. There has been a lot of comment on this in the media, and it was felt that it would be appropriate for us to be briefed by the AG so that we have first-hand knowledge of what is going on. But before we go any further into that, let me, as you all know, we have been overcome by a tragic event in this period of COVID-19, and the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on COGTA has sadly passed away. Can I request that we all bow our heads for a moment of silence in observance of his passing on, as well as the passing on of many others in our country? Can we bow our heads? Thank you, colleagues. This COVID-19 pandemic is really taking its toll on us, and all of us, no matter how stale the message sounds, must adhere to the protocol which says wear a mask, maintain a physical distance of at least 1.5 meters, wash or sanitize your hands regularly, and given the new scientific findings that are emerging, also ensure that wherever you are in a well-ventilated space. So we avoid crowded gatherings, crowded places, all of that, because new findings that are emerging are showing that this virus is also airborne. So colleagues, I'm saying at the beginning, with the sad passing on so close to home to all of us, let us all be safe. We have in front of us an agenda which deals with 8 items: opening and welcome, attendance apologies, constitution of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, presentation by the AG's office on the MFMA audit outcomes, discussion, adoption, and then item 7, which is a specific committee matter, is the adoption of the special resolution of the 3rd of July 2020 and then closure. So colleagues, item 7 is exclusively for the SCOPA members, and I will ask you to remain at the end of that. But for now, can we have a mover for the adoption of this agenda? And we'll follow the protocol of raising hands. Colleagues, there is a facility on this program which enables you to raise hands. I will recognize people as their hands are raised. I see the hand of Honorable Nkosi.
Honorable Chairperson, I move for the adoption of this agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosi. Can we have a seconder, Honorable Kunena?
Chairperson, I second the adoption of the agenda. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I must tell you that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube as well as on Twitter. So I hope you all have put on your best faces. Item 2 on the agenda, attendance apologies. This meeting is collated. We have with us almost full complement of members of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts with an apology from Honorable Sonjika, if we can note that. And we also have with us members of the from Honorable KOGTA Portfolio Committee, if we can note that. And we also have with us members of the... We do have the AG with us now, Cabo?
Yes, yeah, they are all in, ma'am. Okay,
can I just recognize the hand of the coordinator of KOGTA Portfolio Committee on Nonton Lovo? Sorry. Okay, but the name on this, Molifa, you're going to need to change it. Nonton?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I've got an apology from Honorable Twala. He said he did indicate he was going to be replaced by Honorable Khoza, but I think Honorable Khoza hasn't joined yet. But that's just one apology because Honorable Sonjeka's apology has been tendered already. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Okay, thank you, Nonto. So we have the apology from Honorable Twala and a replacement to join us. He's not yet with us, is Honorable Koza. Thank you very much. Colleagues, let me just check with the administrator. Kabo, is the AG's office with us now? Kabo?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Kabo. Do we have the office of the AG with us?
Yes, they are in is Ma'am Shongo and Tendan.
Okay, so let me welcome, as part of the attendance to this meeting, Ms. Ntombi Futi Mhlongo, who is the business executive of the Auditor General's office in KwaZulu-Natal, and Tendani Landela, who is the Auditor General's representative, who works very closely with SCOPA in the KwaZulu-Natal Legislature. You are both welcome, and without further ado, let me hand over to you. Colleagues, I must say that for the discussions, we will please note issues that you wish to raise. They will be for clarity. Resolutions that would have to emanate from KOGTA, because it is KOGTA Portfolio Committee that oversees the department, and through the department and the MEC, the municipalities. We as SCOPA, our interest is in the public accounts, and if there are issues that we need to note and address to the MEC for KOGTA and MEC for Finance, we will note those as well. Let me then hand over to the Ms. Mhlongo. Ntombi Futi?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the time that you've given us to present. I just inquire if there will be someone assisting with flighting, or I can just look through my agenda from my other side, my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Chair.
Able to see, Chair?
We don't have the presentation on the screen as yet.
Okay. Are you able to see it?
Not yet. Can I request that?
Not yet.
Tendani, I can see your icon, but I can't see the screen.
Is it visible now?
Not yet, Tendani. Colleagues, the link was sent to you. Can I also ask that, Cabo, you send the link right now, so members can also link up on their emails?
All right. We'll send on their presentation on their emails.
Yes.
Okay.
So, colleagues, you can also just access your email while right, we do have it now, Tendani. Thank you. If you can just maximize on your screen. Yes, that's fine. Colleagues, it is now being beamed to us. So, Ntombi Futi, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As part of our mandate, we have to report on the accounts of the municipalities, and this report mainly is the feeder to the general report that was presented by the AG on the 1st of July 2020. It's the summary of specifically the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government outcomes of the year 18-19. And as we indicate in the heading that there's legal change in the outcomes and accountability not adequately practiced and enforced by the leadership, and also the failure in the key controls. So if we move to the slides, I will just focus mostly on what's impacting the province mostly, and then the other parts of the slides, then the members can read at their leisure. Tendani, if you can move to the outcome slides, please. Thank you. As part of the outcomes of the provincial government in KwaZulu-Natal, you can see that on slide that is in front of us now, slide 3, the improvements in outcome, we had 8, and unfortunately there was then regressions of 7, and there was 1 outstanding audit. That's the reason we are reflecting that there's very slight improvement in the outcomes of the KwaZulu-Natal province. And as you can see from the slides that we have improvements from qualified to unqualified with findings from Herigwala, King Kachaya, Bakulus, Alfred Duma, Nongoma, and the ones that have improved from adverse to qualified were Richmond, Ugu, and Umsundus. And the ones that have regressed, moving from unqualified with findings to qualifications, Edumbe Chozinem, Tuba Mgeni, Mshwati, as well as Mzwabantu, and then Mzinyati moved from a qualification to a disclaimer. So the reasons for this, for us to be a concern, is that it seems like the controls that have been implemented and have kept these municipalities, the 7 that have regressed into a better space, have regressed. And that also is a cause for concern, because you can see that whatever we've been working on as the AG with COGTA, as well as implementing the audit action plan, seems to have not assisted these municipalities to maintain their previous audit finding of outcomes. So if we move to the next slide, there is a little delay from my side.
Snana?
Yes, this slide speaks directly to the district.
Let's say the problem. It's too small for me.
Can I just request that members mute their mics, please, because it's disturbing the presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The movements in this slide speaks directly to the district, and this is also the other key message that the AG did highlight as part of the KwaZulu-Natal presentation. The district in our province, municipalities per se, they are not doing very well in terms of their overseeing of locals as well as managing their own finances. And if you look at this slide, you can see there were some regressions in some of the district outcomes. Mkanyagu, Mzinyati, we are noting the regressions, and there is also some improvements that are noted in some of the districts, which is Zululand, Utsugela, as well as Ugu, as well as King Kechwayo. And then if we look at the ones that remained with more or less similar audit outcomes, Machuba, Mkungundlovu, Etegwini, as well as Ilembe. But if you look at the coloring of which is also important, you can see that the district that has majority of negative outcomes is at Umgungundlovu district. As you're noting that for 18-19, there were actually 6 qualifications, 1 a disclaimer, and there's only 1 municipality that is there unqualified with findings. And for the province, we must comment that we have 1 clean audit, which is Okatlamba municipality, and through our general report, you'll also note that we are specifying very strict controls that are being implemented by Okatlamba, which have been sustained for over the years, which keeps them in that clean audit category. And also the alignment between of what they do on a daily basis to what the citizen actually require. I think this also could be a slide that can be zoomed into, as we're noting that government is going to a district model. As we're noting for the province, our districts are a bit struggling with their own financial affairs and financial matters, said they will need additional support when a district model is being implemented. If we can move to the next slide. Excuse me, honorable members, my network seems to be going on and off. The next slide, if you can move to the next slide, Tindani.
I'm in the next slide.
Okay, from my side, it is not showing.
What we are seeing on the screen is local government finance, the stark reality.
She can talk and use the presentation that she has. While we'll be moving on the screen, we'll take time. We'll save time.
Yes, talk to your presentation that you have with you, Toby Futi, and Tendani can move the slides. All you do is just tell him next slide, because we can see the slides. And Toby Futi, you are on mute. If you can just unmute.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll move to the next slide. I'll be using my own account because I think we're having a delay from this side. The stark reality on local government, and I think we can see that as part of our analysis of our general report as the AG, we went further to look at the information that we are receiving from the financial statements. The financial statements actually do tell a story, and we have to take time and understand what is in there. As you can see in the province, that the total revenue, excluding equitable share, is currently at 44.7, but not all of this revenue is recoverable as per the balance sheet, and that the national government finance the municipality through equitable share is 11.9 billion, and the conditional grants are at 9.7 billion. And I think the key aspect of this is that the municipality do generate revenue, however, they are unable to collect these revenues. This then have a direct impact of how much money is available to deliver service, to maintain infrastructure, as well as to give the necessary resources to the municipality. And in terms of expenditure, we can see the salaries and wages currently at 13.3 billion. The goods and services are procured, but the suppliers are not paid within the timelines, or time frame of 30 days. And I think that also can be linked to the time it takes for the municipality to collect their debtors. Because to pay your creditors, you need to have money or cash in the bank. And the other part that we've analyzed as part of the financial statements is related directly to unauthorized expenditure, which currently sits at 1.2 billion, as well as fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which is at 143 million. And the net surplus, we must note that 27% of the municipality ended the year with a deficit. This means that their expenditure was more than the revenue, as well as that the total deficit in local government is currently standing at 923 million for KZN. And the balance sheet, this is where we speak about our creditors, where we're saying at the end of the year there were 4.5 billion, and the cash at year end was 4.8 billion. And overall, the creditors are greater than the available cash at year end at the 47% of the municipalities. So it means that some of your municipalities are in what we call it's a net liability or net current liability situation, where it means that the available assets of that municipality will not be able to cover the current liabilities that are due within a year's time. And also, the municipal debtors, as I said earlier, that they are a bit of a challenge for our municipalities because they really do not pay on time. And as a result, its impact on the cash resources of the municipality. And if we look at the vulnerability of municipalities in terms of their financial position, we say in 8 of the municipalities, which is 15%, are in vulnerable position, and the financial statements of municipality are not reliable enough for financial analysis. So in these areas, as you can see, members, that the stark reality of our municipalities is that as much as they can bill their clients, which are the customers are unable to pay on time, and that then results in the creditors not being paid on time, and eventually, there will be issues with the repairing of infrastructure. There'll be issues with service delivery, which will then translate into all the, I think for the past year, you can see that there were so many of the community challenges that were experienced by municipalities where communities were not happy with the services that is available to them. Moving to the next slide.
Toby Futi, you need to unmute.
Sorry, Chair. This one specifically, it's some of the examples that we include as part of our general report. And in the general report, we analyze specific municipality. We have analyzed the Tuela district. And for this one, it's just an example for the members, so I will not dwell into detail. The specific item that I would like to speak to in now, of which also was emphasized by the AG in his media briefing, was to do with irregular expenditure that has been highlighted in the province. The province is one of the provinces that are contributing the highest in terms of irregular expenditure, and as a result, we have to implement new measures on how we're going to deal with this event, of which for us as AG is that we have identified an increase to about 6.5 billion in the province compared to the previous year, and the highest contributor being eThekwini municipality. And in this instance, we have to zoom into that irregular expenditure and how do we change this effect for the province. Furthermore, if you can look at the other main contributors, it's Umkhanyakude district as well as Ilembe. And Ilembe, we have also noted that from the previous year to the current year, they have the highest increase, and also that we have raised with COGTA to properly monitor and maybe inquire what's the cause of that increase. And in terms of the movements, if you look at the previous years to the current year, we are noting that there is a significant regression, as I've indicated. And also we have an outstanding audit that has reflected also irregular expenditure, the outstanding audit being Inkosi Langalibalele. And also I think for members it's very important that there are also some municipalities that have a qualification paragraph on irregular expenditure. So this figure could also be much higher. And how do we cap this irregular expenditure? Then I will move to the preventative control, which is one of the very important slides that we are now driving, as we'll be aware that consequences management, which we have said that if you have irregular expenditure, You have to investigate, follow the MFMA in terms of investigation, holding people accountable, as well as ensuring that any money that is lost is recovered. And this is a very costly process for the municipalities as well as for any public sector institution, because it means that you have to firstly get a person to do an investigation. It can either, as a municipality, you refer it to your municipal public accounts, who can then identify who are the right people to do the investigation, or council can appoint an independent person to do investigation. And then you have to also go through disciplinary processes. And most of the time, these processes take longer. And by the time they're finished, there's actually nobody to hold accountable, or the money is all gone from who have stolen that money. So the easy and the cheapest way to ensure that, we maintain proper governance as well as we deliver service to the community is to implement what we call preventative controls. Preventative controls are dependent on the different levels of assurance. It starts with senior management being the people that are appointed in administration by the accounting officer, who will be a municipal manager. And these people should have the right skills and the competencies, and they can develop internal controls in terms of applying the policies and procedures that are in line with legislation. For example, you have your asset management policies and procedures, as well as making sure that there's asset maintenance, which will continuously address the issue of service delivery. And in the same breath, you have to make sure that if there's any of these controls that are there, they should be able to identify error immediately and correct error. If it does not that the case, then you should be able to then immediately stop transactions from occurring by using your own internal controls, and not rely on the third party, who could be your internal audit or the Auditor General, to start the audit before you can identify issues within your system. The accounting officer as well is the one to drive the strong control environment through ensuring the tone of the top are applying ethical principles and driving the way of ethical behavior within the municipality. And most of all, when we are appointing people, we should ensure they are of the right skills and they are aligned with what the municipal mandate is and what needs to be done within the municipality. And for every instance where a person is not acting in line, that should be addressed immediately through performance management systems, where people could be tracked on what they deliver on a daily basis, and also how they're performing in their daily responsibilities. If we do this on a continuous basis, it becomes entrenched within the municipality, and then we can avoid areas where we have financial information that is not credible, and even reporting on service delivery cannot be relied upon. And we can ensure through the preventative controls that there is continuous compliance with laws and regulation that governs the municipality. As another check, we have internal audit, which also needs to be properly staffed and also reports directly to the accounting officer and the audit committee. And through this system, the internal control can be tested by the internal audit, and any developments and amendments can then be done by a municipality. So we're saying that as the AG, that to have a proper system of internal controls within your control environment will actually prevent any money spent as part of the consequences management, which is very expensive and it takes lots of time. And by the time you complete this, you have lost almost everything that you had as a municipality. And some of the examples we've also included in our general report. If we move to the next slide, specifically on the material irregularities, we have phased in material irregularities within the AGSA, and the eThekwini was selected specifically as part of our metro for the material irregularities. Our assessments of the eThekwini specific item, there were no material irregularities that we identified. And I think as part of also for members to understand that there's a huge difference between irregular expenditure and the material irregularity. And we have also shared the video in this respect, because as we speak about irregular expenditure, people tend to then misunderstood and think about a material irregularity. So basically, you could have an irregular expenditure, but if there is no direct material financial loss linked to that, then you might not have a material irregularity. And as you can see on the slides, there were selected clients throughout the country, and the Togini was specifically one of us that we selected. Going forward, the phase 2 of the PAA amendments implementation would include other municipalities as well, and that will be communicating once we have finalized the list of those municipalities. Those specifically, Honorable Chair, are the main issues or comments that I would like to brief the members on. I know my slides got additional information, and as usual, we are open for questions. If there are any follow-up questions that the members identified after we have left the meeting, you're most welcome to also communicate those to us. And I think, as you say, that there's always people that will like to do less work, and it's even more likely that they will not do anything if there is no proper leadership. So the tone at the top in any of the municipalities, in any public sector institution for that fact, is very important to ensure that there is proper quality of results that are being presented, and the internal controls that are implemented, they prevent any error from occurring prior to internal audit or external auditor coming into the municipality. As part of our slides as well, we have included the root causes. I think that is also another zoom in for the members to look at. And our root causes has actually not changed over the years. We're still talking about vacancies, consequences management, as well as the leadership in terms of stability in that effect. So we are hoping that going forward, as we table these preventative controls to all our municipalities, which we've already started, we can see a change of more proactive, acting on matters than relying on consequences management. Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I will take questions if any.
Thank you very much, Ntombi Futhi. As I mentioned, Ntombi Futhi Mhlongo is the business executive, and thank you for that presentation. I think it will assist us considerably in the oversight work that we need to do. Colleagues, by show of hands, can we now take any questions of clarity or brief discussion? Obviously, COGTA Portfolio Committee will take this and internalize it and formulate necessary actions. We as SCOPA, in as far as our mandate permits, we will also be doing the necessary, which would mean liaising with the MECs of COGTA and Finance. Can I have show of hands, please? Raise your hand. Okay. I see the hand of Honorable Roger. Let me just get a list, please. Honorable Roger. Honorable Kaula. Honorable Kunene. In this order, please, colleagues.
Chair.
Honorable Nkosi. I'm hearing someone.
Teliza.
Okay, Honorable Teliza. Right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who else? Okay, let's take the 5 for now. Please don't repeat each other's questions and be brief. We'll start with Honorable Rogers.
Thanks, Chairperson, and good day to colleagues. I'll try and be brief. A couple of comments and then perhaps just some questions to the AG. One of the biggest concerns, if one looks at the report given us during the division of revenue, was the drop in collection rates of between 40 and 60% in local authorities. And then if we look at what the AG has just given us last year, that 27% of our municipalities are currently running at a deficit or insolvent. It's a huge challenge for us going forward, and it's an issue that we're going to have to address, and I don't quite know what the solution is. Then also, if one looks at some of the municipal budgets that are being approved at the moment, we've got municipalities that are still going ahead and adopting unfunded budgets. So that's a question to the AG that I'd like to know, is when municipalities put together budgets and they're in fact unfunded, so showing a deficit, what is the AG's responsibility in trying to make sure that municipalities put together a balanced budget? Then the AG gave us, and I'm just going to open the presentation on my computer here. The AG gave us quite a detailed brief about how they are going to be monitoring municipalities, and it was, I think it was slide 21. No, it wasn't slide 21. Apologies, Chair. Let me just find it. It was in fact slide 12, preventative controls that the AG is going to be implementing with municipalities. Now, my question is, if the AG is going to be identifying weaknesses in municipalities, and you then going to present those weaknesses to the municipalities or to your audit committees, and you have the lack of capacity and the lack of accountability, how is this going to change the current system? I don't see anything here that tells me that we'd be able to change the capacity challenges that already exist. So we're going to just continually identify the problems and not quite address the problem. So that's a direct question to the AG. And then if I can compare for an example, slide 22 with slide 4, and you look at eThekwini. eThekwini was part of the AG's new involvement in municipalities, implementation of expanded mandate 28-2019, and you actually look then at eThekwini's results for the same period. It's unchanged. So, the AG got involved and identified eThekwini municipality as one of the municipalities that they would assist. But if I look at the outcome, it's unchanged. So, in fact, what did the AG achieve in that particular exercise? I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honourable Rogers, can we move on to Honourable Kaula? Members, be brisk in your questions. Thank you. Honourable Kaula, the floor is yours. Honourable Kaula, I think you need to unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, and thanks to the AG. I am at a disadvantage, Chair, that I've just come back. I was cut off. Chairperson, thanks for the briefing from the AG. I just want to ask one question. Before I go to the question, I want to go to some of the comments made by the AG in the 1819 report. Amongst other things, in respect of KwaZulu-Natal, the AG says that there is lack of responsiveness to implement and monitor action plans. There is weaknesses in governance structures. I'm more particularly interested in that. There is weaknesses in effective accountability, and there is failure to adequately discharge legislated service delivery responsibilities. Now, these talk to the MPECs specifically and also to the councillors, mayors, and so on, but in a way, they may also be talking to members of the legislature, particularly in SCOPA, and also in the COGTA Portfolio Committee. What I want to know, Chair, is without behaving like a big brother to this level of government, which is municipalities, how can we as SCOPA in the province assist so that we don't come at the end when things have already gone wrong? My question relates to that, Chair, to say, without being seen as a big brother, but in a way of saying, let us stick to good governance and the rule of law. What could be the role of SCOPA, the way they could maybe advise us? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Honourable Kaula. And you will see that, my opening remarks, I was very careful to say that in terms of our SCOPA mandate, we will not overstep the mark and intrude on the work of a fellow portfolio committee. However, we can deal with the MECs of finance and COGTA in specific issues relating to SCOPA. But you did raise an important point about the impacts. And in the past, we have worked with impacts. We're aware of their cries of being disempowered and not enjoying resources. And fortunately, the Municipal Structures Act, the amendments there are addressing those. So I think we will have that discussion in SCOPA when we meet at SCOPA to craft our way forward. Because definitely we do need to play some role, but mindful of the fact that our sister committee of COGTA is the one that will take the lead, because this covers municipalities. Let me now hand over to Honourable Kunene.
Thanks, Honourable Chairperson, and thanks to the AG officials for the presentation. The one question that I wanted to ask Honourable Rogers has alluded to, so I'm not going to ask it again. But then the next question I wanted to know from the AG is, when the AG conducts and AG office conducts an audit in a particular year, does it check on how the findings of the previous year were implemented by that particular municipality and make an opinion on it or not? Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Kunene. I think that is an important matter that is being raised, and it's also part of the oversight responsibilities. Honourable Nkosi, I see your hand.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, even for organizing this joint meeting. I think it is going to sensitize both the Standing Committee on Public Accounts and the COGTA Portfolio Committee on the new role that they are expected to play on the ground. But firstly, may you allow me to make a comment for the benefit of members who did not join the virtual meeting with the Standing Committee on Finance of the NCOP and the National Assembly. Colleagues would want you to know that the oversight at the local government level is very, very difficult for MPEC alone, based on the conduct of the two councillors. One of them is a mayor and the other one is an ex-com member here in KwaZulu-Natal. The level of arrogance and shifting of issues and getting into politics rather than to account. They treated the National Assembly and the NCOP with the disdain of the highest level that I would expect from a deployee of government. That's one comment that I wanted to make. The second issue, Chairperson, was covered by Honourable Rogers around the question of unfunded budgets. I will wait for the answer from the AG. The third issue, Chairperson, I want to find out if AG can intervene on the government departments, both provincial and national, which are owing municipalities. Thus, then the issues of revenue at that level is problematic. I wanted just to find out on that one, but they highlighted that particular issue. Then the last issue, Chairperson, I want to find out the readiness of the AG's office to implement the newly promulgated Public Audit Act, because myself, as Honorable Nkosi, I banked too much on that one. Does AG have resources and capacity to intervene in line with this newly promulgated Public Audit Act of 2018, if I'm not mistaken? Thank you very much, Claire.
Thanks, Honorable Nkosi. I think you've raised a very, very important question. We were all celebrating the fact that the AG had been given more teeth with the amendments to the Public Audit Act. I do recall in a briefing that I attended by the Auditor General, where he said that he had issued certificates. What I would be interested in is, has that been done, certificates of debt, has that actually been done in KwaZulu-Natal? And some idea of the way forward, because individuals then get held liability, and it's part of consequence management. I also want to echo what Honorable Nkosi is saying. I also attended that meeting yesterday, where SALGA responded to the Division of Revenue amendments that had been put forward by the Minister of Finance, and there was a great concern about the level of taking responsibility. And this really, as Honorable Nkosi said, is a source of concern. So, colleagues, let me now hand over to Honorable Tulisa.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I think, Chairperson, I'll be wasting your time because other members have covered my points. So, thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Tulisa. You have saved us some time. Before I hand over to the AG, let me just summarize what members were saying. The issues about some of the issues that have been raised, obviously I'm not covering all of them, is the AG's responsibility in ensuring a balanced budget. I think this one, Honorable Rogers, it's actually not the AG's responsibility, but they will respond. This is something where you would be dealing with COGTA and municipal councils as well, and Treasury. Then Honorable Kaula raised the issue of the role of impacts and councillors, and where members of the legislature can fit in on this one. Honorable Kunene raised the matter about whether the AG has looked at findings of previous audits, and Honorable Nkosi raised a very, very important issue of unfunded budgets, as well as the implication of the consequence management and expenditure that is carried over. One of the important things, colleagues, that I think we must look at is local government is the face that our people see, and it's the cold face of service delivery. The AG has been pointing out that I think it's around 17% or 27% of the municipalities don't actually have money. They are carrying expenses into the next year, which means they've got to pay that first. Creditors are owed. And in these times, those are difficult matters. So let me hand over to the business executive and her team.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thanks to the members for the questions. I think I'll just start with the unfunded budget one, and it came a few times. I think as part of our responsibility, basically, we just indicate or review that the municipality has complied with the requirements of law when preparing their budgets. And it is correctly said that COGTA and Treasury will also receive those budgets and raise queries if there's any matters of concern within those budgets. As the AG, unfortunately, we can't assist municipalities in preparing their budget, but we can always make recommendations of improvements on the findings that we pick up as we do the audit. When looking at preventative controls, Honorable Rogers, that is where we're saying that within the municipality there should be a certain structure of a structural way of operating. For example, starting from the cashier, when you receive revenue, it should be properly prescribed. How do you collect cash? How do you record cash? Those simple things, the internal controls that needs to do. How do you record? How do you keep your records? And who should be approving the depositing of those monies and so on? So as the AG is saying, let's start at the basics, because those are basics. If I can just pick one example, we take KwaZulu-Natal, for example. It's one of the, I think, municipalities, small ones in the province, and they have mastered part of the preventative controls in that. During the year of 1819, there was a vacancy where a municipal manager, moved, but you could not fill that gap because the controls within municipality are so instilled that each member of the municipality knows what to do, when to do it, and they can self-correct if there's anything that is going wrong. So it doesn't really come to having certain monies to pay people. It's simply meaning that the people that you have, they do their duties as required, and there is guidelines in terms of the policies and procedures for each of the transactions that are taking place, for each of the things that needs to happen with the municipality, even if it means road maintenance plans need to be implemented. They know when to deliver in terms of those maintenance and what should be done and who should be attending to potholes. So it's just simple day-to-day running and monitoring of those processes. That's what preventative control speaks about. So we have guided and done presentation on what is a good control and why some of the controls will not work. And also that is directly linked to our audit action plans, because for each of the audit action plans, we will be highlighting the control deficiencies. So if you say it's a control deficiency, it means that a municipality have the ability to correct that, but they have not. So as part of our recommendations that we sent with accounting officer, it's always things that are doable within the limits of a municipality. And where we found exceptional circumstances, I think it's very rare, but we will raise to the accounting officer, who is the municipal manager, and also escalate to the mayor. In terms of the responsiveness action plans, I think that is one of our key areas that we've highlighted, and also the AG, as part of its media briefing, noted that for KZN, we have a challenge where the audit action plans, which we as the AG, as well as internal audit, we have reviewed, and now also KOGTA is assisting municipalities with these audit action plans. They look good, but the implementation of those is very poor, and that's why we cannot see lots of movements in the audit outcomes. And these audit action plans are also part of the logs that are tracked by the internal auditors as they do the reported audit committees. And you'll note that most of those logs will tell you something is either in progress or it's not yet implemented. Very few issues get resolved. So as much as we do the investment, is that the people that are on the ground at the municipality must start implementing those action plans, because they are a roadmap into how to self-correct the issues that happened in the past. The role of MPAC in the province, I think we're one of the few provinces that actually work with KOGTA to do workshops for MPAC. Also, we advise them how to actually read an auditor's report, how to read any financial report, so that they can ask the right questions and also make the proper recommendations for implementation. And as I said, that it's always come back then to the implementation of those recommendations made by either MPAC, audit committees, as well as the internal audit. And we've also emphasized that MPAC, since some of them areas they are not expertise on, they have no expertise on, working with the audit committees who are appointed members who also have expertise in different spheres, either in financial management, compliance, or performance reporting, so they can learn a lot through those members by inviting the chairperson of the audit committee into MPAC meetings. And we've seen in the meetings that we have attended that there is that relationship that do go between MPAC and audit committees, just to balance the skills and ensure that they are guided. In terms of the the movements in audit opinions. I think for all of us, it is a concern. As I said, that the audit action plans are there, they're in place. It's the implementation of those action plans. I think as part of our recommendations as well that we've put forth to COGTA as well as the municipalities is, the tone at the top is very important in ensuring that all the action plans that are implemented, not just for audit purposes, but for any other purpose are implemented. There should be right tracking and monitoring from the executive, which is the executive mayor, as well as that mayor then reporting to council on what is working and what is still in progress and where the challenges are. The lack of monitoring and that enforcement from the top is what actually is failing us. As I said, that if I make another example as well, taking of Katlamba, I think that's why we say the clean audits are always overshadowed by the balance of the information that we see. That municipality has taken a decision that for everything that is tabled in council, they will ask the credibility of the information, and the MM must confirm that information is credible and it represents, what is, is in the municipality. And they have set timelines when information must be available to council so many days before the meeting. And that helps a lot, that it allows council sufficient time to then go through the information that is presented to you. That also goes to the accounting officer, to the mayor. The reporting and the structure is very clear on what are the expectations, and if there is no action as agreed, then they hold each other accountable. So it makes it a sort of a part of the municipality. It becomes their way of life. So if we can learn from those small things, there's not really much money being invested. It's simply holding each other accountable as we perform our daily duties, and it works for the municipality. And in terms, if I can just look at the role of SCOPA, I think as we have highlighted, as the AG in the province, we work very closely with COGTA, and COGTA we have met already on these outcomes, if I'm not mistaken, 4 times, where we have analyzed what needs to be done, what can work, and where we have challenges, the AG we have escalated, and where there is issues from the municipality side as well, they escalate to COGTA, and then we sit together and analyze these issues. I think from COGTA side, the oversight is there. It's just we are all worried about implementation of all these recommendations that we put forward, that nobody is taking full accountability and monitoring that the people on the ground are implementing. The question on whether the AG have the sufficient resources to implement the Public Audit Act, the AG has applied his discretion where we phased the implementation of the Public Audit Act. We started with eThekwini as part of our municipalities, and going forward, we're looking at the bigger number, and we have a criteria in which we use to identify those that implement the PA on the phased approach. For example, those municipalities that will have high irregular expenditure, they are main contributors of irregular expenditure, and they have been receiving negative audit outcomes for a certain period or 3 years or so. So that is how we identify the municipalities to select for the phasing in, and also looking at the risks that we identify during an audit process. And in the meantime, we are fully equipped, and we have the capacity in-house. And what we also find that the more that we interact with our accounting officers in explaining what these amendments mean, we get more alignment and more cooperation in how they then conduct their services. And just maybe to remind the members that the Public Audit Act amendment speaks to the case where the accounting officer has not performed as required by the Municipal Finance Management Act. For example, the Section that speaks about the responsibilities of the accounting officers, which includes the implementation of certain controls that you have to have proper processes to manage your assets, to manage your revenues, to manage your creditors and debtors, and as well as ensure compliance with laws and regulations. So if the accounting officer has applied all those, specific responsibilities, and there is checks and balances, and they are holding each other accountable, meaning that there's consequences management that is taking place, it's very unlikely that the AG will have a lot of findings in terms of the material irregularities. And also for members, understanding that the Auditor General only deals with the material irregularities. Anything that is below a certain materiality amount, it must be addressed at the municipality level, and we also do the necessary escalations. If there is matters to be escalated to the mayor, we will do that. And in terms of the certificate of debt, the question in the provincial side, we have not issued any certificates of debt yet, because the material irregularity process starts with an audit, and we cannot identify things outside an audit process. So we have done the first audit, as I said, that we implemented through eThekwini, and we went through an audit process, and from that audit process, we have not identified any material irregularities. If we do identify material irregularities, and then we will send for the accounting officer to give responses and what action they will take on that irregularity identified. If the action we believe it's adequate, then what you will see as members is that in the auditor's report, we'll have that paragraph which says an irregularity was identified, and then we'll tell you what actions are being taken to, specifically to that. But if there is nothing that was identified, we'll also indicate that nothing was identified. And the material irregularity kicks in when there is a financial loss. There could be a non-compliance, but if there is no financial loss linked to that non-compliance, it means the auditor will never raise a material irregularity. So I think those are the other differentiations that we also try to explain to all our stakeholders. And I believe Tendani has shared a link to some of these videos that we are currently sharing. Because of the lockdown, we are not having meetings, so we have done different videos to share with our stakeholders to clarify all these misunderstandings on the difference of material irregularity and irregular expenditure. I believe I've covered all the questions. Honorable Chair, you can just guide me if I missed anything.
No, I think you have. You have actually covered all of them. Thank you very much, Tombi Futi. Colleagues, I think that covers the issues of clarity. I can see the hand of Honorable Kunene. Honorable Kunene?
I was checking, Honorable Chairperson. I couldn't hear my response to my question. Thank you.
Honorable Kunene had raised the matter about whether the AG looks at the previous implementation or findings of the previous year when they go into an audit. But let me just, I can see other hands as well. Let me just list them, and then I'll hand over back to the business executive. I see the hand of Honorable Kaula, and I see the hand of Honorable Nkosi as well. So let's just take it in that order. Honorable Kaula, unmute please, and then you can speak, and then Honorable Nkosi will follow you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thanks, AG. I am on a follow-up on this issue that was raised by the Honorable KK Nkosi Chair on the issue of the certificate of debt. I read this report from the AG's report, and I have a concern. It's a long road. There is nothing one can do about that. It's a long road before you get to where they can issue the certificate of debt. But my question is on this phasing in like she was saying that they are phasing it in. They started with eThekwini in KwaZulu-Natal. We have got 54 municipalities. And right now, I think countrywide, they've done about 9 or 10 municipalities out of 270 something. Now, my concern, Chair, is when will this kick in a full scale in the province? And I would also like to know when it does kick in on a full scale, because they work on audits that they have done on the previous years. Now, when it kicks in, what is the likelihood of it when it kicks in at full scale? What is the likelihood that it will go as far back as it can? Because if it doesn't, there are issues that will go under the carpet, because they will be looking at the recent audit reports when there are maybe issues which could have been material irregularity, but which do not get into the year that they will be looking into. So I'd just like to know how far back they will go and what is the projected time frame in saying full scale kick in. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, before I hand over to Honorable Nkosi, I can see the hand of Honorable Kunene. Have you forgotten to lower your hand, or do you have another issue?
No, sorry, Chairperson, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, no, fine, that's all right. Honorable Kawula, let me also just say that in terms of the Public Audit Act, and the business executive will correct me, but it is time-bound. The application of it is within a certain period, so we might not be able to go as far back as we should, and as you are pointing out. However, let's also say that hopefully the AG's office will not need to go to every municipality in terms of implementation of the certificate of debt, because we would be getting impacts and other structures, including Treasury, playing a more vigilant role to ensure that the finances are run properly. But I think that is a discussion that, when you go to COGTA and other structures, it must be held. Honorable Nkosi?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I thought the AG forgot to answer one of my questions. If there is any intervention that they can make where government departments are owing local government. It became very strong yesterday, and it has been a thorn in our flesh when we're debating the Section 71 reports tabled by the MEC for Finance in the Legislature. I just wanted to be answered on that one, because even yesterday, it came out very strongly coming from SALCA. That's what I wanted, ma'am. I also know that there's a team led by COGTA and the Provincial Treasury in KwaZulu-Natal that is dealing with that. But the problem still remains. That's why then I wanted to find out if AG can assist in that regard.
No, I think it's a fair question, Honorable Nkosi. And I think while you are talking about that, let's also note that the AG had pointed out in this report that municipalities were in arrears in terms of payment to creditors. So not just what government departments owe them, it's what municipalities owe, I would assume service providers and others. And I think that the impacts that the municipal public accounts committees and municipal and councils need to actually get their act together, because this has a ripple effect. When you don't pay a small service provider, they go out of business. And in this particular time, where our economy is really being strangled and where things are very hard, non-payment of service providers is actually criminal. Let me hand over to the business executive.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And yes, I will start to the questions that I missed previously. The one that speaks about the previous year's findings, I do apologize. Maybe I just put it as part of the action plans. In terms of the previous year's audit findings, those are included in the audit action plans. And we then track that the implementation of the audit action plans, it's there or not there. If the matter still is a repeat finding, we will report it again in the year that follows. As we indicated as part of the media briefing, as well as part of our briefing here, is that the audit action plans implementation is very poor, resulting in the stagnation of outcomes, meaning that there is no real movement in outcomes. People are still being not complying with certain laws and regulations, that we end up reporting irregular expenditure and so on. So those also will appear in our report as repeat findings if they have not been cleared from what we've reported previously. It is definitely the long road to the certificate of debt, but I think we should just focus on why was the PAA put in place. To support the current existing legislation, which in this case is the Municipal Finance Management Act for municipalities and the Public Finance Management Act for departments. So the intention was never for the AG to take over the responsibilities of the accounting officer. As correctly said by the chair, that it's not every municipality that will find a material irregularity in, because there's already structures in place that are dealing with irregularities and implementing consequences management. And as the AG, we will simply look into those matters and investigation being conducted, and if there is implementation of the recommendation and those investigations, and then we track it in that manner. And with regards to the municipalities that we select, we always follow the risk-based approach. That's the reason that when we're phasing in, we're selecting the ones where we believe, there will be greater impact and there is likelihood of finding more material issues. And the balance of the municipalities as we phase in, we will be assessing annually on the type of the approach that we apply as the AG. And for the current year, it won't be just eThekwini alone. We are already analyzing the information, and as soon as we have communicated to the respective municipalities and the mayors will then advise all members where are we then implementing the phase 2 of the PAA. Intervention by AG in terms of the debt. We do analyze the people that are owing the municipalities, and we always recommend, I think SALGA will be in a better place because we table at council as well as at mayors of what is being owed by other departments to the municipality. And we expect the municipalities to then take the necessary action in terms of recovery. And the escalation processes do happen through KOGTA. And unfortunately, that is how far we can go as the AG. And in terms of the focusing on reporting, we've started analyzing the money owed to the water boards in ESCOM, and that we normally include as part of our reporting. But I think depending on the impact that this part where departments or municipality has, we will escalate into the different portfolios, and we also table some information through the Office of the Premier. So I think that is the type of intervention we can do as AG, and that's how far we can go. And in terms of the municipalities owing directly, the creditors are impacted by the non-collection. So I think that's what we've picked up as part of our financial analysis. The municipality are not collecting, therefore it's impacting on how they pay their creditors. So there is a direct link in that aspect. In terms of, I've spoken about materiality, I've spoken about the certificate of debt. Honorable Chair, I'm not sure if there's any other question I missed.
No, I think it's fine, Ms. Mhlongo. The colleagues also, we must bear in mind that the role of the AG is somewhat limited because it comes after the event. And that is why there's always this this push from the AG's office to say oversight must be exercised by those empowered to do so, leadership must be exercised. It's an ongoing thing. When the AG finally comes in, the deed is done. You know, the horse has bolted in many cases. And I'm thinking specifically of this 1.2 billion of unauthorized expenditure incurred by municipalities, unauthorized. It means that this wasn't in their budgets, but they went ahead and did it. And we all know about the returning of conditional grants unspent as well. So I think as SCOPA, certainly we are fortunate in that some of us also serve on KOGTA as well. We will need to raise issues in KOGTA as to how we up our oversight, particularly in relation to the financial performance of municipalities. And then as SCOPA, we need to craft our way as to how we also engage without encroaching on on the responsibility of our sister committee and without going outside of the mandate that we have been given. But certainly, this, you know, the saying about local government is everybody's business. It's true, because none of us can stand by and next year see municipalities falling because they haven't even paid the previous year's debts. I think I want to also, because I am now rounding up colleagues on this matter, let us also extend our appreciation and congratulations to Ukashlamba, because they have done an outstanding job. They have sustained their clean audit, and I have read media coverage as well, where you can see that their clean governance has impacted on the service delivery in that municipality, where residents are pleased with the level of services that they are getting. I read an article in the Mail and Guardian where residents across the board were very appreciative of the fact that they were receiving services from their municipality. And this obviously links directly with good governance, clean governance, and commitment of the leadership. So we must really, really extend our appreciation to that municipality and to encourage other municipalities to learn from the best practices that have been set by that one. Colleagues, I think what we can do is we can round off this, because this was a presentation for our information so that it equips us with an understanding, and in our respective committees, we will then have to discuss how we deal with these findings and what our roles will be. Obviously, I think with our sister committee, as SCOPA, we are quite keen to work together as well, because the support, you know, it is one government, and whatever support from the side of SCOPA that we can extend, we will do so, but we will leave it to the sister committee to take the lead in terms of oversight on the municipalities. As SCOPA, we will deal with what is within our mandate as well. And that, I think, will also look at our relationship with the impacts through the Association of Public Accounts Committees. So, colleagues, let me close this part of it. Let me thank the business executive and her team. Thank you very, very much for availing yourself here. Your presentation was very clear to us. It points the way as to what needs to be done. And as SCOPA, you know, we look forward to working closely with you. I must also say, colleagues, at this point, that we are very, very pleased that the indication has come from the Office of the AG that there will be briefings on the COVID-19 expenditure that is occurring in this period, with specific reference to the Departments of Education and Health. So we will be working on that as well, which I think is part of what we as SCOPA will do. So thank you very much, Business Executive and your team. I think you can release the members of SCOPA, of KOGTA, sorry, because the next item on the agenda is a matter specific to SCOPA. So colleagues from KOGTA, we thank you for your attendance. I think you will digest what has happened here, and we will talk about how we can also work together. Thank you very much. Colleagues, let me now move to the next item on the agenda, which again is in line with the with the oversight that we need to exercise. We had met on the 3rd of July to look specifically at the issues of spending. We had adopted our revised follow-up resolutions report, and we looked specifically at the issue of how do we address oversight in terms of COVID-19 expenditure of provincial departments. And we had a very strong discussion on it. We had decided after a presentation from our researcher that we would want, because what had been found and had been reported by the researcher is that requests had been made to Provincial Treasury to provide a report in terms of how departments were performing in terms of their COVID-19 expenditure and their adherence to the PFMA and the Treasury regulations. But unfortunately, Treasury have not been forthcoming with that report. We must thank the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee who had made some intervention, but we still do not have a report. However, what we had agreed on in the meeting was that we would then go directly to departments. So what you have in front of your colleagues is a resolution that we want our committee to adopt, which goes directly to departments and deals with the compliance with the National Treasury Instruction Note. The resolution has been circulated to colleagues, but what I will do is I will read it out, and then colleagues, we can discuss it, and if it is fine, we will adopt it, and then this will go out to the departments. We must also just thank our legal advisor, Mr. Eric Root, who crafted this resolution. So colleagues, can I just read this? Kabo, I'm not sure if you're able to beam it. Kabo? Kabo, will you be able to beam it, or can I just ask colleagues to look at it on their emails?
Okay,
Kabo, unmute.
Let me beam it.
Okay, fine. While he's doing that, colleagues, let me start. Standing Committee on Public Accounts, Special Resolution 1 of 2020. It's a special resolution. Compliance with National Treasury Instruction Note number 5 of 2021 on emergency procurement. Well, there it is there in front of us. In response to the national state of disaster, Departments of Health, Education and Social Development. We had identified these three as the main the spenders in this period of COVID-19. So the first part is noting that the COVID-19 pandemic was declared a national state of disaster on 15 March 2020. Regulations were gazetted under the Disaster Management Act 2002 on 18 March 2020 to prevent the escalation of the disaster and to alleviate, contain or minimize the effects of the disaster. Regulation 9 of the Disaster Management Act regulations provides that emergency procurement for institutions is subject to the PFMA and the applicable emergency provisions in the regulation or instructions made under Section 76 of the PFMA. On 28 April 2020, National Treasury issued Instruction Note 5 of 2021, which applies to all national and provincial departments and public entities, the purpose of which is to prescribe in general emergency procurement procedures to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, to avoid the abuse of the supply chain management system in dealing with the disaster, and prescribe specific emergency procurement procedures for PPE items and masks, and to set maximum prices to be paid for these items. Paragraph 3 of the instruction note provides that institutions must A, put in place additional procurement and expenditure measures, including internal systems for financial control, risk management and reporting in order to account for the funds used for the COVID-19 disaster, ensure officials committing any expenditure are duly authorized or properly delegated, conduct audit checks to detect and prevent irregularities, and generate frequent weekly expenditure reports to monitor expenditure and risks. May, in terms of emergency procurement provisions, deviate from inviting competitive bids without Treasury approval, and may procure goods and services by means of price quotations or negotiations, but the reasons must be recorded and approved by the accounting officer or accounting authority or their delegate, must within 10 working days report to Treasury and the AG all deviations where goods services above 1 million were procured. The report must include the reasons for dispensing with competitive bidding processes and may, for the duration of the pandemic, vary contracts for construction-related goods or services up to 30% or 30 million of the original contract value, and contracts for non-construction related goods or services up to 25% to 25 million of the original contract value without Treasury approval, if the variation is for goods and services to prevent an escalation of the disaster or to alleviate or contain the effects of the disaster. But any variation in excess of these amounts requires written approval of Treasury. Paragraph 4 of the instruction note determines the maximum prices and specifications for PPE items and masks and provides that institutions may procure such goods from any supplier provided the specifications are met, the prices are the same or lower, deviations up to 10% are permitted on certain conditions, and the suppliers are registered on the CSD or other approved database. But cloth masks may only be procured from suppliers who are registered with the Department of Small Business Development and on the CSD. Paragraph 7 of the instruction note provides that institutions must amend their procurement plans to reflect their planned COVID-19 related procurement and available budget. So the committee resolves that the accounting officers of the Departments of Health, Education and Social Development report in detail to the committee by 12 August 2020 on compliance with paragraphs 3, 4 and 7 of National Treasury Instruction Note number 5 of 2021. In relation to paragraph 3 of the instruction note, the report must include details of the internal systems for financial control, risk management and reporting put in place, confirmation that all officials committing any expenditure are duly authorized, details of any audit checks being conducted and the frequency thereof, details of weekly monitoring of expenditure and risks, details of any deviations from inviting competitive bids, the reasons and the approval of the accounting officer, copies of any deviation reports to Treasury and the AG where goods services above 1 million were procured, as well as the reasons for dispensing with competitive bidding processes, and details of any other contract variations, the percentages and amounts of the variations, the reasons for the deviations, and the nexus between the variation and the prevention of an escalation of a disaster, as well as written approval by Treasury for variations in excess of the permitted percentages or amounts. In relation to paragraph 4, the report must include details of procurement of PPE items and masks at or below the maximum prices, confirmation that all procured PPE items and masks meet the required specifications and details of how this is assured, and confirmation that all suppliers are registered on the CSD or other approved database, and that suppliers of cloth masks are registered with the Department of Small Business Development and on the CSD. In relation to paragraph 7 of the instruction note, the report must include details of the amended procurement plans reflecting the planned COVID-19 related procurement and available budget of the department. So colleagues, you will see that this is a very comprehensive resolution focusing on the 3 main departments, and I think it covers the information that we as SCOPA require. You know, when this discussion had arisen, we were concerned about the procurement of blankets. Members had spoken about the procurement of PPEs by the Department of Education, and various concerns had been raised. Reference had been made to media reports as well. And, you know, we had not got too much of joy, or we hadn't received a report from Treasury. Now we're going directly to the horse's mouth, where we will go to the departments. So let me open this up to you, members. Having looked at this resolution, if this is good enough for us to send out to the departments, because we would like to send this out ASAP. The floor is yours, members. Indicate by show of hands, please. I see the hand of Honorable Nkosi. Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. There are three things that I want to say about this resolution, and also to account to the SCOPA as I volunteered to deal with other issues, as we have commented on them. I believe that this is a very comprehensive resolution, which covers all angles that will make government departments and entities to account for monies that are given to them by the legislature. That's the first part. The second part, I would want to indicate to the honorable members that I got very good support from both the MEC and the acting HOD around the question of this. And then lastly, I would also want to plead with the officials who have done such a good work under your guidance, Chairperson, that would love that this resolution reaches the Treasury before the end of the day today, based on the discussion I had with both the MEC and the acting HOD. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Nkosi. I think we can do that. I think also, colleagues, I can see the hand of Honorable Kaula. Let me hear you. Honorable Kaula, please unmute and then you can speak.
Thanks, Chair. I do want to second Honorable Nkosi to say this is a very good report and a very good resolution, Chair. You know, it's a pleasure to read SCOPA documents in this province. I serve in many committees, but I just want to end it there, Chair, and say, well done, SCOPA team. It's a pleasure to read your documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have a mover, Honorable Nkosi, for the resolution, and a seconder, Honorable Kaula. Do all members present agree with this resolution and support it? Or is there anyone who doesn't support? I can. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. We'll take the recommendation of Honorable Nkosi that this resolution also be forwarded to Treasury. And I just want to add that we forward this as well to our team here. Could we also forward this to the Office of the Premier, who is the coordinator of provincial government departments, so that it is on record there that this is a resolution that has gone out to the departments. We'll send it to the OTP as well. I think, colleagues, we must thank our legal advisor and our team. Mr. Root has always been very good in ensuring that we craft our resolutions well. So we want to thank him for that support. We must also say that our researcher had indicated that he was not available in this period due to a family bereavement. So we do record that and convey our sympathies to Linda Bushler as well. I'm sure that, in this difficult time, you will just have to be as strong as you can. So, colleagues, the resolution is then adopted. I just have one more item before I close the meeting for your information. You will be aware that there have been extensions granted to provincial departments for the submission of their financial statements. And this has created a delay because the auditing process has been delayed, and obviously it will create a delay in the compilation of the annual reports. The Office of the Auditor General has reported that the audits would only, or the financial statements would only come in by the end of September, which means there would be a delay in the annual reports. So our SCOPA hearings are going to have to be moved to December, colleagues. It's an unusual year. We are in business unusual. I'm just giving you a heads up about this because this is due to the timeframes that have been extended because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So just remember that, colleagues. Understand that this year is pretty messed up, but we shall overcome this. We will be getting dates in early December for our SCOPA hearings. It's not anything that we can do much about, colleagues. This virus doesn't have any respect for anyone. So, colleagues, I just wanted you to be aware of that. You will see the amendment to the dates. Our report, our resolutions report, is being debated on July 23rd at the sitting that is going to be convened. So, with those, colleagues, I don't know if anybody has anything to say. We are ready to close the meeting. All right. We've got the 12th of August as the response date, so obviously we will be providing feedback in relation to that. Okay. Thank you very, very much to all of you then, colleagues. Thank you for your time and take care. The meeting is closed.
Thank you.
Well done, Chairperson and colleagues. Thank you very much to Eric and Cabo. Well done, guys. You have done a marvelous job.
Yes, they are both
MK.
Thank you, everyone. Guys, you can have your virtual party now. Meeting is closed. Thanks, Cabo. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Kwasi. Thanks, Linda Bushler.
They're going to contradicted directly. Angizokufonela mngani wami.
Akeniqiniso.
Sanibona sicela. Hayi very professional. He's a former trade unionist, MK. You must know that.
Yeah.
Trade unionists are known. Yakufonela manje mfethu. Yakufonela manje mfethu.
Okay, ke bahlonishwa.
Okay, Sibari.
Yes, wami.
Okay, mfethu.